So let us get started with developing that flow in this Mule application. So here there are two XMLs which I created. There can be multiple XMLs. I will delete one of the XML right now. Okay, this is the only XML, and you can see this XML is empty right now. So what I want first, I want a HTTP listener in the flow first. So I'll select this HTTP listener module and HTTP module and drag and drop the listener. Now you can see the first flow. The name of the flow is first app flow, which is nothing but the XML name suffixed with flow. I can give any name. I can just write hello world flow. Okay. Then it is giving an error. Why? If I click on it, see here, there is a connector configuration which we need to configure. I need to tell in which port this HTTP listener should listen for, right? So for that, I need to configure something called as connector configuration. So I'll click on plus. Here is the name of this configuration. I'll give my HTTP listener config. Okay, I can give any name. Now, on which port I want to listen at 8081. Let it be the default. Host 0.0.0.0 is nothing but equal to local host. All interfaces it is saying. Okay, you can right now assume that it is equal to local host. So actually there's a meaning for 0.0.0.0. It says all interfaces on your machine. So as of now, assume that it is equal to localhost. I don't want you to get confused. Then here there is something called as base path. I can give any base path. For example, I can give /x. Okay, fine. That's all I configure. Now here I have to give path /hello. So how to actually give a request to this flow? Localhost 8081 slash the base path I gave as x, then slash hello, the whole thing. I can avoid giving base path if I don't want, but let it be right. Okay, then as I told you, I want to drag and drop set payload. So set payload is available in core. I can I can actually go down and search for set payload, drag and drop. And here the value of set payload. Here you can see that there is fx. Actually, if you want to set dynamic payload, you might want to write an expression called as data weave expression. What is this data weave? Data weave, or simply we call it as DW. It is nothing but data weave. It is the expression language which we use in Mule for writing transformations. So here, whenever you want to write a dynamic data weave expression, you have to select fx. But if you want to just configure a simple string, you can just write directly without fx. I want to write hello world. Okay, I can write like this. Or if I want to write a string in data weave, how? I will select fx and then write in single quote. So whatever you write in single quote will be treated as a string data type in DataWave. You can even write it in double quotes also. Both are same. So I have set the payload as hello world. So as I told you, whenever a get request is given, HTTP listener will create a mule message which contains attributes and payload. Headers will be populated into attributes. Body will be populated into payload. And for get request, there will be no body. So it will be null. Now in set payload, what we are doing, we are setting the payload as hello world. After that, I want to write a logger. I want to drag and drop a logger. The same mule event will come to logger. By the time the mule event comes to logger, the payload is hello world. I wanted to log it. So I'll click on favorites. Normally, the regular components, whatever we use, they can be in uh, favorites. So I'll just drag and drop this logger. Okay, here I'll write fx and then simply write message. Whenever I'm using fx, message in DataWave represents this mule message. Mule message has payload and attributes, right? If I use dot, it is showing payload dot message, sorry, message dot payload, message dot attributes. So if I want to access payload, I just can write message dot payload or simply payload. Both are equal. You can use anything. So I just configured the logger to log payload. If I want to actually concatenate the string, I'll write payload is. Payload is I kept in a single quote, right? That is a string, and I can concatenate plus plus payload. Okay, so let us run it. How to run this application? We have to run our Mule applications in a Mule server. How to run this application on a Mule server runtime? Very simple. I'll just right click on the project, run as Mule application. That's all. What will happen first is Maven is building this project first. Let us maximize this console. Yes, Maven has built it. I will show you the Maven console. I can select Maven output. Maven has built my Mule application. See, after building, what is the output? In my workspace, in the project folder, target folder, I have a jar file. This is the output after building my project. This jar has to be deployed inside a Mule runtime. So automatically you can see Mule runtime is started and my application got deployed inside Mule runtime. You can see in the logs, first line is saying Mule home directory is set to this folder. Hey, inside any point studio folder, inside plugins, there is a plugin which is nothing but the Mule runtime server, Mule server plugin. This folder is the Mule home directory. Let me go there. I'll open. So under plugins folder, you see the path inside any point studio under plugins folder, under some subfolder, Mule. This is the Mule home directory of embedded Mule server running within the studio. And there is a folder called as apps. Here you can see my app, right? So actually my application got deployed inside a embedded Mule runtime. It is successfully deployed. Okay. Then, hey, don't worry, we'll deploy the same application into a separate standalone runtime. There you'll understand what is happening internally. That will be next lectures. Okay. So right now I showed you how to start your application. Then I want to give a request to /hello. So I'll go to localhost 8081 slash the base path is x slash hello. Yes. Oh, actually, you can see that some file got downloaded here. Hello. I'm not seeing the actual output. Okay. Why is it so? Let me try it out. I'll explain you clearly. Now let me give a request using Postman. Hey, what is this Postman? Postman is a tool which we can use to make any HTTP call. Like if you want to give get request, post request, put request, delete request, you will be able to make requests using Postman. So what you can do is you can just go to Google and search for Postman download. Just follow this. Download Postman and install it on your local machine. I'm not going to show you. I hope you can just Google it and install Postman. I have already installed Postman and I opened it. Now I can select which method I want to use for making a request. Get request, then localhost 8081 slash x slash hello slash x. Okay. So I can see the response 200. Success code is 200 and the body is hello world. But if I see the headers, oh, the content type in response is saying it is application slash Java. It is not text. So actually the browser doesn't know how to display this return type application slash Java. So it automatically downloaded here. So let me open this hello. Yes, inside it hello world is there, but it got downloaded. So the default content type is application slash Java. Whenever I set payload, I have used an expression, right? The output of this expression will be by default application slash Java. If I want to say that this is a plain text, what I can do is I can go to MIME type and here I can select text slash plain and save it. Okay, now I saved it. Automatically you can see that building is happening. In Anyone Studio, whenever I change my configurations, if I save it, automatically build will be done and you can see that the application is getting redeployed. I don't need to stop and start. Just saving the file will automatically redeploy. Okay. So fine. Now, if I give a same request now, do you see the content type is text slash plain in the response headers? The body is hello world, but the header now is saying text slash plain. I'll give now the same request on the browser. See, am I getting hello world displayed? Yes. Now the browser understands that the response type is text slash plain, so it is able to display. Okay, so now you got the basics of how to actually develop a simple flow. Okay, now I want to add few more things. What I want is instead of displaying hello world as response, I want a small modification. What I want is whenever a client is sending a request, I'm expecting a query parameter called as username. Username is equal to Siva. If this is a request, whatever is coming after question mark, these are called as query parameters. Query parameters are nothing but key value pairs that come in the URL after question mark. I can even pass multiple query parameters by using ampersand. Again, another key value pair like city is equals to Bangalore. So while giving a request, a client can send query parameters like this. Query parameters are nothing but key value pairs. And there can be multiple query parameters in the URL. Now, how to access these query parameters? Okay, let me tell you, whatever query parameters are coming as part of URL, they will be accessible through attributes inside the Mule message. Okay, so let me just do debugging. I wanted to actually debug this application and see what is the structure of Mule event or Mule message. So how to debug a Mule application? What I will do is right now, I'll click on this red button to terminate my Mule runtime. Then now I want to run in debug mode. What I can do is I can right click on set payload and add breakpoint. When the control comes to this component, I want to see what is the mule message having. I want to debug and see. So I will right click and add a breakpoint. Okay. Now I will right click on the project, debug as Mule application. Earlier I said run as Mule application. Now I will use debug as Mule application. Okay. Now Mule runtime starts in debug mode. Let us wait. Now it is building. Maven build happening. Let us wait. Yeah. Now it is asking me to switch the perspective. It is saying this Mule debug perspective is designed to support Mule applications debugging. It incorporates views for displaying current Mule messages and for breakpoint management. Do you want to open this perspective? Yes. If I say yes, see the windows, whatever are visible, the perspective, the look and feel of Anypoint Studio changed. On the top, I can see something called as Mule Debugger window. On the right, I can see some other windows. And here is a console. Okay. Now I can see a message saying that connected with Mule, waiting for the Mule message to arrive. Actually, the Mule debugger connected with Mule runtime and it is waiting for the Mule message to arrive. Okay. So what I will do is now I will give a request using this. I'm passing the query parameters also. Now, if you see when the control comes to the set payload, on the top, I can see what is the payload. Let me see what is the payload. Hey, empty. Because I gave a get request. There will be no payload. Payload is empty. Attributes. You can see attributes is an object of type HTTP request attributes. Okay. If I expand, you can see query params. Do you see query parameters in attributes? Attributes dot query params. Query params is a map and it contains again username and city. Okay, very good. I can access attributes. How to access? See, when we are in debug mode, if you want to evaluate any data weave expression at this point, I can write that expression. Attributes. I can click on evaluate. See, at this point, when the control is here, this is the attributes object. Then dot query params. If I click on evaluate, yes, it is containing, it's a map which contains this key value pairs. And I want to access username dot username. If I click on evaluate, I'll get the value Siva, right? Similarly, I can access dot city evaluate, I'll get the value Bangalore. So by writing this expression, I can extract the value of name and username and city, right? So how to access headers? You can see under attributes. Do you see headers? Yes. You can see these are the headers, key value pairs, which the Postman is sending. You can access attributes dot headers dot the key user agent. It will give you the value. So like that, you will be able to access the headers as well. Okay. And there are a lot of other things like attributes dot method will give you the request method. What is the method used? Get or put or post. Here it is get. Listener path is /x /hello. Right? All this you can access. Fine. Now, the payload right now at this point is empty. The set payload is not yet executed. Now I want the control to go to next component. So here on the right corner, you can see you can press this icon, or even if you can press F6 on your keyboard to take it to the next component. I'll click F6. Yeah, now once the control is here, set payload is executed. Payload is hello world. That's fine. Now on the console, you can see I'll right click and clear the console. The logger is not yet executed. Now I can click on this button to go to next component, or I'll click on resume to continue until the next breakpoint or end. So resume. You can see the logger has written a log. Um, this is, you can see log message processor. It has logged payload is hello world. That is as expected. Very good. Now I want to modify my set payload. Instead of writing hello world, I want to actually use expression. I want to concatenate this hello with attributes. If I press control space, automatically it will show me dot query params dot username. This is the way to access the username. But I am getting an error. Why? Because whenever I'm using plus is a concatenation operator. You can concatenate a string with another string only. You cannot concatenate a string with some other object, some other type. Actually, whenever you are writing an expression, this may evaluate to null as well. If I don't pass query parameter username, this expression will evaluate to null. And you're trying to concatenate string with null, which may cause an error. Right. So that's the reason the compiler, during the compilation time, it will give an error message. But to make sure that this compilation error will go, I'll typecast it to string using as string. That means I'm telling, hey, this will be a string. Okay, fine. I saved it. So again, the build process happening, and redeployment will happen in some time. Let us wait. Yes, build is done. The application is redeployed. Okay. So I can see that application is redeployed. I'll clear the console. Now if I give a request, okay, see the payload is still empty. I'll click on this F6. Now the payload is hello concatenated with Siva. Good. Logger will log the same. Logger will log as payload is hello Siva. That is fine. So now you understood how to set payload dynamically. Okay, there is a problem here. What if I don't pass username as query parameter? It will be null, right? Let me show you. Here, the control is here. Set payload. Now I'll press F6 to so that it will be executed. Hey, if you see that there it is the component is surrounded with red, that means there is an error. What is the error message saying? Cannot coerce a null to string. Actually, this expression attributes.queryParams.username was coerced as string, as null. It is null actually, it is evaluated as null. But you are saying it will be a string. In runtime, it is not really a string, it was null. So this is a problem. Okay. Now, the best practice is whenever you are typecasting to string, you can always give a default value. I can give here default world. Okay. So actually the expression went to the left side. If you want to see the full expression, you can click on show graphical view. It will show you the entire window. I'll click on this icon to show only the source. This is the entire expression as string and default is world. That means if this expression is null, is evaluated null at runtime, the default value will be world. So save it. Now let it get redeployed. Um, so it is, I think it got redeployed as well. So now I'll give a request. Again, breakpoint F6. See, payload is set as world. Next. you can see the response is world because I gave the default value as world. Let me check here. Here for set payload, what I did is I actually gave the default value as world for the entire string, but I want to give default value only for this expression. I have to wrap this inside a parenthesis if I want the default value to be applied only for this expression. I want hello to be string only and I want to concatenate this expression. For this expression, I want to give the default value void. Okay, done. Let it get redeployed. Yeah. So let me clear the console and we'll try to give a request now. Now F6. I think it was not redeployed. See, I can see the payload as world again. I guess it is not redeployed even after saving. So better. Sometimes if it is not getting redeployed, it might be an issue with any point studio. It is not redeploying after saving. Fine. Let me check that expression. Okay, so I will redeploy. Now I want to run. I don't want to debug. Instead of right clicking on the project and saying run as or debug as, you can right click on the file and select run. It will deploy the application on the Mule runtime. Now I'll give a request after it is getting deployed. Mm, yes. See, I got hello world. I will tell you one more requirement. What I want is, uh, so in the URL, I want to give something like slash hello slash city name and query parameter is username. I can pass Bangalore or Delhi or whatever. So I want to first of all configure the HTTP listener to receive any requests coming from a URL in this pattern. How? What I can do is for HTTP listener, I can write slash hello slash city. City is something coming in the URI. Okay, what is difference between URL and URI? See, this whole thing, whatever we are writing, is URL, Uniform Resource Locator. But whatever is coming after port number, this is called as URI. So in the URI, I want this to be a dynamic parameter. So what I can do, I can write like this. So in this case, city is the URI parameter. Okay, so once I configure it, let us see, I will again run this application in debug mode and try to give a request. Okay, I'm debugging. Breakpoint is already in set payload. Let us see, after it starts, I'll give a request to slash hello slash city. Okay, yep, it is starting. Let us wait. Okay, I'm switching to debug perspective. Okay, it deployed. Now, let me give a request. Request came here. Let us see the attributes. Inside attributes, you can see query params. There is username as query parameter. And there is one more thing called as URI params. Here I can see city equals to bank. Now, how to extract the value for this city? I will write a data weave expression attributes dot URI params dot city. Let us evaluate. Hey, I got Bangalore. So this is the expression to extract any URI parameter. Okay, fine. Now, from where does this name city coming from? Whatever you give, that is the URI parameter name. Now, I want to actually modify set payload now to use city. So for this existing string, I'll concatenate hello username from again plus plus attributes dot URI params dot city as string again. Okay. Now I will give the default value as universe. Okay. And again, I will wrap this inside parenthesis. Okay. So this is the way I can use URI parameters and I'll get the out. Fine. Now, one more thing I want to tell you before I run this. Actually, in the Mule event, you understood the structure of a Mule event. Mule event contains Mule message. Mule message contains attributes and payload. We understood how to write an expression to extract attributes and payloads. Now, what about vars? Vars is a map where you can store key value pair. How to set variables inside Mule event? How to retrieve them? Let us see now. Very simple. What I can do is, if I want to set a variable, I can search in Mule palette for set variable. There is a transformer called as set variable transformer. I dragged it. Here I'll write user as a variable name. Then value, I want to retrieve its value from query parameter. Attributes dot query params dot username. Query parameter name is username, but I'm storing it in a variable called as user. Okay. Similarly, I want to set one more variable, city, and I want to use expression. So I will select fx attributes dot URI params dot city. So I created two variables. Fine. Now, how to access them in the next components? Very simple. In the set payload, I can just write here the expression vars dot user. And here, instead of extracting from URI params, now I can use vars dot set. Okay. So now you understood how to actually use variables and also how to use attributes, query params and URI params. Now let me debug this. I want to debug now. And I want to show you in the event how this variable will be looking. Okay, so let it get deployed. Okay, so then I'll go and give a request to this URL. Still, I think it is not yet started. Let us see the console. Still, the application is starting. Now I'll give a request. Coming here, you can see under vars city and user. That's it. So the set payload is using them to set the payload. Now you can see the expected output. Right. Now you understood how to actually set response payload. But what about response headers? I want to set response headers, my own custom headers. How to set? And what about the status code? What if I want to give a different HTTP status code? Yes. So let us try to understand. Um, See here in HTTP listener, if I click on it, there is responses tab. Here in HTTP listener, response body will be whatever is there in the payload, and you can actually specify headers. Headers are nothing but key value pairs. I can add key and values, or I can write an fx. Where's dot, I can write a response headers. And default, I want default to be an empty object, so I will write like this. So if the response headers variable is null, then there will be no headers. Then status, where's dot status code. I will write fx again here, and I want default to be 200. Fine. So I have set some expressions in the responses for response body, response headers, status code. Now you know the variable names which the listener expects while sending the response back. What I can do, I can set some same variables. I can drag and drop another set variable name. I'll give same response headers. And here to write key value pairs, what I can do is I can write some x1, whatever key value pairs you want to write, y and something like 2. So whatever key value pairs you write in this object here in response headers, they go as response headers. And if I want to set status code, what is the variable name expect here in HTTP listener? Here I have set it as status code. Okay. So let me set a hard-coded status code as, for example, 201. Just for example, I'm setting it. Okay. So I've set these variables as expected by this HTTP listener in the responses tab. Let us run now. I'll stop it and I'll start again. Let us now run this application and give a request and observe whether I'll get these response headers and status code as expected. Let us see. So the application is getting deployed. Let us wait. Deployed. Now if I give a request, I got the response. See, the status code is 201 as I gave. And under headers, do you see X and Y? Yes. That is how you can send response headers and you can customize these status codes. Right now I have hard coded 201 as status code, but we can write some conditions and conditionally we can return status code. We'll see that in later lectures, how to actually write conditional logic. That's all for this. Now, I want you to work on an exercise. Actually, I have created a GitHub repository. Let me open that GitHub repository. I'll go to my github.com. I have created a GitHub repository called as Mule for by Siva. And right now you can see day 4 here, day 5. Here there is a document, Mule basics doc. If I click on it, here you cannot see that doc because it is a doc file. In GitHub you cannot open. So actually this document file contains the instructions on how to work on the exercise. So you cannot open this doc file here. What you can do, you can go to my repository code, click on download the zip. So the zip file will be downloaded. Fine. Now let us go there. This is the folder. Yes, under this you can see day 5. Under this you can see my document. I have clearly given step-by-step instructions on what you have to do to complete this exercise. You just have to follow this step by step. Create a new project. You know how to create a new project. If you want help, go back to my video and see how I have created a new project, create a new XML. So like that, you follow this step by step. Whatever I have done, you will be doing it practically on your machine. Try to see if there are any issues, understand it, fix it, and don't worry if you face any issue, you try to fix it. And if not, you can actually connect with me on a meeting or you can message me. I will actually clear your queries. Okay, that's all. Thank you. And we are done with week 1 of our Mule developer training. So for week 2, you can watch the next playlist, week 2 playlist in my channel. Follow the week 2 after this. Thank you. I'll see you in next week's video playlist.